Coaster enthusiasts are known for something I like to call extreme speculation. Sometimes coaster enthusiasts have the special talent of almost being able to predict the future when it comes to coasters. Sometimes we're able to decipher an exact ride layout from only a few rumors, while other times we're dead wrong. Recently in the coaster community, there is a rumor that is causing a heated debate among coaster enthusiasts. That rumor is about the B&M Surf Coaster. The B&M Surf Coaster is a possible new coaster type from B&M, but the thing is that we only have limited information about it, which leads to every coaster enthusiast coming out with a new theory on what it could possibly be. I've heard everything from a next generation stand-up coaster to B&M's take on a 4D coaster. So because we have so little information about this coaster, it could literally be anything. Watching a bunch of YouTube, it seems like every coaster YouTube channel, including mine, seems to have a different view on what it could actually be. So in this video, I'm not just going to be doing the usual by giving you my view on what I think it is, because I've already done an entire video on that. Instead, I'm determined to dive deeper than anybody else to see if I can provide actual evidence to what the B&M Surf Coaster really is. The information in this video I came across by searching the internet and reverse engineering this entire rumor. So join me as I tell you why I think the B&M Surf Coaster is not what you think it is. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to start off by briefly going over the origins of the surf coaster as well as all of the theories so far. Then I will present to you what I think is either evidence to debunk or give credit to each theory. And at the end of the video, we should have a better idea about what the surf coaster could possibly be as well as what it's most likely not. Now, if you're a fan of this channel, you'll know that I already talked briefly about the surf coaster in another video, but I felt like that video wasn't really complete. So in this video, I'm going to be covering a lot more information and it will be way more in depth. This video is basically a successor to my old video, so listen closely because there's a chance that I might have figured out what the surf coaster could possibly be. But like always, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I post new videos every week and I really appreciate all of the wonderful support that this channel has been getting. But now let's get to the video. When I was researching for this video, I was very surprised to find out that not many coaster enthusiasts actually know the origins of the surf coaster. Here's the origins as briefly as possible. First off, a trademark or paperwork of some kind was filed by B&M with the word surf coaster on it. Other than that, the only other thing we know is that SeaWorld Orlando received a large shipment of B&M track with the letters SF-A, which most likely means Surf Coaster A, or in other words, SF for Surf Coaster and A as in the first one. That's literally it. But like I said earlier, we don't really know that much about it. This is where all of those theories come from. But there's one piece of very important information that a lot of us don't take into consideration and overlook. That is the fact that SeaWorld Orlando might get the first one. If SeaWorld Orlando does actually get the first one, it can give us some very important information. This is very important, and remember this because it will help us determine what type of ride it could be. Currently, there is an abundance of theories of what type of coaster it could be, so I think the best way to have the best chance of getting this right is to list all of the theories and then narrow them down from least likely to most likely. The current most popular theories are an improvement of the stand-up coaster, B&M's take on a 4D coaster, B&M's take on a full-fledged launch coaster, a reverse flying coaster where you would lay on your stomach on top of the track instead of underneath it, B&M's take on a water coaster, a surfing stance coaster, and a stand-up wing coaster. Those are the majority of theories that somewhat make sense. Of course, there are other theories that I think are super unlikely, like it being a strata coaster, or even I've heard the idea of it being a stand-up inverted coaster. But those that I mentioned I think are somewhat possible. Also, the idea of a launch is being thrown around for almost every one of those theories, so there's a very good chance that whatever the surf coaster is, it will have a launch. Now I'm going to attempt to narrow down the list, and this isn't just going to be my opinion. I'm going to try to provide actual evidence of why I think certain theories won't work, and this is where SeaWorld Orlando comes into play. If the first surf coaster does go to SeaWorld, it would knock out the reverse flying coaster theory. SeaWorld Orlando already has Manta, which is a B&M flyer, and I don't think that they would add such a similar ride when they already have way more gaps in their lineup, so I'm going to knock out the reverse flying coaster theory. The next one that I'm going to eliminate would be the stand-up wing coaster. To be honest, I don't think this one's going to work at all. I could see so many problems with the design of this ride and with the restraint system, so I think it's super unlikely. So the options we have left are an improvement of the stand-up coaster, B&M's take on a 4D coaster, B&M's take on a full-fledged launch coaster, a water coaster, and a surfing stance coaster. These are the options that are being talked about a lot. In fact, the two coasters that the majority of coaster enthusiasts think the surf coaster is are the surfing stance coaster and the next generation stand-up coaster, which are basically a variant of the same thing. If you saw my other video, you'll know that this isn't what I think the surf coaster is, but when researching, I decided to be as unbiased as possible, and here's what I found. A surfing stance coaster is basically what enthusiasts are calling a concept where you would stand one leg in front of the other. This theory comes from the fact that surfers stand in an open stance or surfer stance. To further illustrate this concept, I took the liberty to create some graphics. Now, granted, I'm not the greatest artist, so please bear with me. Obviously, this would involve a very intricate and mobile restraint system, because everyone is a different height and different people stand naturally at different angles. I would expect this to have some sort of wraparound restraint system instead of a lap bar, because when you're standing, a lap bar wouldn't really work. After some time just messing around, I came up with these graphics. In theory, it looks awesome and could possibly work. And honestly, this entire concept looks really cool and ended up growing on me. But when I made the graphics, many problems with the theory started to come to mind. First off, unless some type of over-the-shoulder restraint is utilized, it wouldn't be capable of inversions or high speeds. So it would honestly turn out to be a glorified family coaster. If an over-the-shoulder restraint system is used, it still doesn't fix the problem of the amount of force put on your front knee, back, and back knee. I can only imagine that standing like this on a coaster would be incredibly painful. I mean, if you don't believe me, go stand like this for 60 seconds and imagine going through inversions. On top of this, when your body is pushed forward by the coaster's forces, your legs will naturally want to buckle, causing you to fall down, and unlike surfing, you wouldn't really be able to balance. However, with the right restraint system, this could be fixed, but honestly, in my opinion, there's just too much that can go wrong. So I think a coaster like this could maybe be built, but I highly doubt that it would be anything less than painful, so I'm going to eliminate this from the list. But keep in mind that a next generation stand-up coaster is still possible. It's just the surfing stance factor that doesn't sound like something B&M would try, and there are just way too many risks involved. On the other hand, a next generation stand-up coaster is entirely possible. In order to be appealing, it would most likely have to eliminate all of the problems and bad reputation that the stand-up coaster faced. These problems are most likely the result of the roughness and the bulky over-the-shoulder restraint. So that brings us to the question of, is there any way to fix these problems? My answer is sort of. I think it's entirely possible to improve the stand-up coaster design, but you might not be able to improve everything. The over-the-shoulder restraint is almost unavoidable. Not only does its bulkiness keep you in place, but it keeps you safe during inversions. So I could definitely see this being improved, but from what I could research, some sort of over-the-shoulder restraint would be needed. I honestly think that B&M could improve them a lot, or they could even use their vest restraints. So I think a new and improved stand-up coaster is possible from a technology standpoint. The only thing that makes me doubtful is the fact that pretty much no one actually likes these type of coasters. So it would be extremely hard to sell to a park, but it's not impossible. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion on what they think the surf coaster is, and if you've been following my channel, you'll know what I think. I think that this is B&M's take on a full-fledged multi-launch coaster. I think that it will feature tighter trains and smaller tracks, and it will allow for tighter turns and smaller inversions. B&M as of now doesn't have a multi-launch coaster. They have Hulk and Thunderbird, but they don't have a specific model dedicated to launches. Instead, all they have is a launched wing coaster and a launched floorless coaster. My theory is that B&M is seeing how well Vekoma and Intamin are doing creating launch coasters, and they decided to create their own. Now, if you saw my other video, you may be saying to yourself, Josh, we already know your theory on the surf coaster. Why did you waste our time making an entire new video? Well, I wasn't originally planning on it, but while browsing the internet one day, I came to something that gave credit to my theory. That is this image right here. This is concept art for Ocean Park Hong Kong's new expansion, and this coaster here is kind of strange. At first glance, it looks to be a Vekoma or Intamin launch coaster, but then on a second look, it looks to be on B&M track. This is exactly the concept I was describing. Now, I could be completely wrong, but this concept definitely seems plausible. On top of this, in another concept image, there seems to be a B&M dive coaster, which proves that they are at least working with B&M. And on careful inspection of the photo, you can clearly tell that the restraint system does not look like a Vekoma or Intamin. Intamin lately has only been doing lap bars, while Vekoma does both lap bars and a thinner over-the-shoulder restraint. The only other manufacturer it could be would be Golden Horse, but I find that unlikely. The final thing that gives me credit to this theory is the fact that SeaWorld Orlando doesn't have any launch thrill coaster. They just got Icebreaker, which in a way is a thrill coaster, but that's still geared towards families. Honestly, a coaster like this would be a perfect fit at SeaWorld Orlando, and I honestly really hope that this is what it is. Now that's just my theory, and there's a chance I could be dead wrong, but I think there's more to it than that. I usually don't take concept art that seriously. If you look at a picture like Kings and Minion, they have the wrong type of drop tower and an extra coaster. But maybe, just maybe, I might have figured it out. But who knows? So that's just what I think the B&M Surf Coaster is, but there's still a huge chance it could be one of the others that I mentioned in this video. I may have not completely figured out what the surf coaster is, but I believe I came one step closer to narrowing down the concepts. But now I need your help in trying to figure out what the B&M Surf Coaster actually is. If every enthusiast comes up with a different theory, eventually one of them is bound to be correct. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see content just like this every week, and comment below your thoughts on the B&M Surf Coaster. What do you think it is? Do you think my theory is correct, or do you think it's something else? This is the Coaster Josh signing out.